So we usually do this off the air, but I figured we could do some show planning right now in our cold open.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we could say that would make Texas fans the most mad?
I would say a lot. Happy Thursday, and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show presented by Neutral. Keep it tasty, Tempe. Coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by Senor Rubis. Over here we have the Deli Man behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen today. Guys, do us a solid. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Sharon hit the nail on the head. Just 6 days away till the Peach Bowl, till Arizona State and Texas square off in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. We've got a lot to get into, specifically taking a look at both Arizona State and Texas's rosters, some difference makers, some guys that certainly will be playmakers for both squads in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. Some names you need to know, some players you need to be aware of. But before we get into that, I kind of want to do a little vibe check.
Okay.
A little vibe check for this first segment. We are 6 days away. We obviously had the holiday the other day. Just want to know how everybody in the chat, everybody in here is feeling with just 6 days till kickoff.
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm really excited.
Feeling juiced?
I'm feeling really juiced. I really appreciate all of the Texas fans that have found this show and all the kind words that they've had to share with us. Your humility and how humble you are is inspiring. And I'm trying to take some of that into my life. So I've actually found meaning in this game beyond football.
And that would be?
And that would be to be really humble about how good your team is.
Just be as humble as possible.
Just always take a step back and say, you know what? The other team's great. It's going to be a good game. Let's just go out there and have fun. Because that's really the message that Texas fans have been putting out there in our comments.
Yeah, 100%. We got Casey in here, Sharon, Tom, John, David, bunch of folks in here.
It's a great question, Casey. That's a great question. When is Branchmas?
Potentially soon. Potentially soon. I would anticipate you're going to get an answer on the Branch brothers here shortly. But TBD. Things change. It does sound like it is between Arizona State and Georgia. So cross your fingers. Pray to whatever God you pray to.
I pray to Kenny Dillingham.
We'll see obviously what happens. It would obviously be massive news if Zion and Zechariah did opt to commit to Arizona State. But as it stands right now, everybody's still kind of waiting, just waiting to hear what their final decision is going to be. Obviously, it would have a giant impact on Arizona State. But we can get into maybe some transfers and stuff a little bit later. Yeah, that's the dessert menu.
What's your vibes? How are you feeling?
You know, that's the question, isn't it?
It's the question you asked me. You're not prepared to
everybody
answer?
wants it. No, I'm prepared to answer it. I'm 50-50 on this one right now. Texas is a very, very good team. Yeah. I think Arizona State is a very, very good team as well. I think there are a lot of Texas fans specifically that just see the fact that you are matching up against Arizona State, a team that's been 3-9 the last 2 seasons, a team that quote unquote snuck into the college football playoff in a conference that maybe they don't necessarily respect entirely. And I think Arizona State is going to make them pay a little bit. There are obviously some really, really dominant things that Texas does on both sides of the ball. I think this is going to be a game where you are going to see the team with the better coaches come out on top, right? And that sounds like a a little bit of a cliche, right? Coaches coach, players play. But I think as it relates to a team in the SEC like Texas, a team that has spent a lot of the year as a top 3 team in college football, hasn't slipped too far. Their only losses this year are to Georgia, right? Another team in the college football playoff, a team set to play Notre Dame in the quarterfinals. There are ways to expose Texas on both sides of the ball. And we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. But overall, I think this is going to be a closer game than the books have it at, right? I think 7.5, 8.5 points is probably, I would say 8.5 is probably a better line than the 13.5. But you never know. You've seen it really all year long when you look at Texas, right? This is a team that when they are better than the opposition, 9 times out of 10, they boat race them.
Yeah, and they dominate. And that's, I like to give Texas fans a lot of grief. I just think it's fun. Somebody else in the chat said it's fun when both sides are confident. Texas is a really good team.
They're a really good team.
Really good team. Texas 100% has a shot to win it all this year. Like, I have no doubt in my mind with that.
I disagree with you.
I think they have a shot. I know, because you think Oregon and Ohio State is going to win whoever.
I think that either one of those teams probably comes out of this side of the bracket.
I'm not going to disagree in the fact that, like, I would put money on that, but I do think that Texas has the talent and the depth to win the national championship. But where my problem comes in is that there's a bunch of people who have not watched a single snap of Arizona State football and are just scoreboard watching for the entire season and are just automatically assuming that Texas is going to steamroll, right? Because if you don't think that Arizona State's a good football team, you haven't been watching Arizona State, and that's fine. Like, I'm not going to force you to watch it. It's really fun football. You should, and you should probably be prepared. But there are some things that Texas fans feel like are just going to be the easiest in the world. And I'm sorry, like, that's just not the case here. Like, This is not an easy team to play. Steve Sarkisian said it. This is the hottest team in college football. They're playing with a confidence and they're playing with a passion that very few teams have. And like you mentioned, when it comes to coaching, I'm very confident in our coaching staff versus Texas's coaching staff. Yeah. And that's just from being here and watching it up close and personal. Marcus Arroyo basically given the award for best offensive coordinator in college football. He was the only offensive coordinator nominated for, I forget what it was. The Broyles Award. And there was no other offensive coordinators for the best assistant coach in college football. So what does that mean?
On that list.
Right. Obviously, you hear Steve Sarkisian talk about the kind of respect he has for Kenny Dillingham. And I also think that Texas isn't a perfect team. It's not just a foregone conclusion that Texas is going to show up and play their best football. There are some weaknesses that can be exploited. And if Arizona State can do that, then you have yourself a football game, and ASU wins a lot of close football games.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny said it the earlier in the week, right, when he had his press conferences. Arizona State is 6-1 in close games. If you can make this a close game, then, honestly, the odds probably favor Arizona State, right? Arizona State's played in far more close games that require you to be clutch at the end than Texas has so far this season. We'll see if that hurts them at all, if this game is close at the end. Specker54, a Texas fan, had a question earlier in the chat. If we think that the trenches in speed are going to play a factor, I think they always will. I think, in all honesty, Texas is a faster team. I don't think there is as big of a gap in size as maybe, really, really hard Texas fans believe there is to be in the trenches. But I maybe a little bit more depth, right? I think that is going to be more of a conversation than the actual size in the trenches. Is Texas, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like, it's not just a 4-man rotation on the D-line. Like, this is a group that can go 6, 8, 9 defensive linemen without really missing a beat. But this is also a team in Texas that, if you watch specifically the games that they have struggled in or that they've lost, this is a team that if you can get them on their heels, if you can get them thinking as opposed to just reacting, then you have a good chance to win, right? You specifically look at that SEC championship game. There was a couple of drives for Georgia when they started to get things going that Texas was just on their heels defensively. Georgia's offensive line had a step. Trevor Etienne had a step. And maybe even bigger, the offensive coordinator had a step on what Texas was trying to do defensively. Made him pay. They really, really beat him up in that first game that they played a few months back. But again, Texas, they obviously learned from that matchup. They didn't learn enough. losing that SEC championship game. So we'll see. We'll see, right? Because anytime you are an offensive or defensive coordinator or a head coach, you take each game with a little bit of a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
Like in the things that you do, quote unquote, get exposed by, you do ultimately try and shore up or at least hide moving through the rest of the season. And I think Texas did that after their first matchup with Georgia, but when they faced Georgia again, it just wasn't enough. And if you look at Arizona State, right, I think the recipe to beating the Sun Devils, at least from what you've seen in games this season, is if you come out and smack them in the mouth early on, offensively and defensively, this is not a team necessarily, especially without Jordan Tyson, that is built to try and throw it around the yard and come back.
And especially because when you look at the times where they have been able to throw it, even if you take Jordan Tyson out of the equation, it's usually just to kind of keep them on their toes, right? Because the offense does run through Cam Skattebo, and I'm not saying they're a one-dimensional offense because they certainly are not, but the ground game is kind of going to be your bread and butter, especially for Texas fans who are here to kind of, learn about this team. Of course, Cam Skattebo, but Sam Leavitt on the ground as well. Kyson Brown has had a good season too. The ground game is going to be what's established here. And when you have your offense to go through the air as a counter to that, then you're in a lot better of a place, right? When you are behind, which is what we saw against Texas Tech, right? And it's what we saw against Cincinnati. Of course, the Cincinnati loss on the road without your starting quarterback.
I don't take the Cincinnati game into consideration.
And the Texas Tech is the first true road game in the Big 12, the first true road game for a Sam Leavitt, because, they played Texas State, and it was a good environment, but it's no Lubbock, right? So you have to kind of take all that into account, but when you get behind, you start to force things, to make mistakes, to try to throw, downfield, and when they know that, earlier in the season, Leavitt's arm was not as accurate as it is now, so that teams are able to take advantage of that. If ASU falls behind early, that plays massively in Texas's favor.
Yeah.
And they know that, right? And they've been sitting and brewing and waiting. And I'm expecting from Arroyo and Kenny, their first drive of scripted plays to be some of the most beautiful football I've ever seen in my entire life. Because I think they know how important it is for them to put 7 up as fast as possible. Because if they can't do that, and Texas gets some momentum with some of these big playmakers that we're going to talk about later in the show, it's going to be an uphill battle for ASU. Not impossible, but much more difficult.
Armando in the chat, as a Horns fan in El Paso, I'm closer to Tempe than Austin. Been watching Dillingham, and I'm a fan. I'd be rooting for you against anyone else. Big things coming for ASU in the future.
Dude, some good Texas fans today. Specker 54. Being very cordial and complimentary. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Armando, we appreciate all of you. Send this to all of your friends that love Texas football too. This is going to be fun. We're going to kind of poke some fun at each other, but this is going to be a good game.
I think so.
I really believe that.
And Chris saying got to score on the first drive. Yeah, I think that leads me into a point that I do want to make. I think this is going to be a game where you are going to know how it's going to go after the end of the first quarter. If this is a back and forth game in the first quarter, it's going to be a back and forth game, I think, the whole time. If this is a blowout in the first quarter from Texas's end, then I think it's going to be a blowout all the way. But if you're Arizona State and you know Texas is going to be throwing things at you to start this game right off the jump, if you are able to handle that, if you are able to counterpunch, if you are able to put drives together, whether they end in 7 or 3, it doesn't matter for me. I think you just got to get on the board as early and as often as you possibly can. Then I think this really will be a game that does go down to the wire, because this is a team in Arizona State that, in all honesty, the last few games of the season, the second half hasn't necessarily been there.
It hasn't mattered.
Hasn't been their cup of tea. Well, you look at certain games, right? You look at the BYU second half.
If we're going far, that's where I'm going.
That's where I'm going.
I thought you were talking about Arizona, Iowa State.
And it's been interesting to see, right? Because it felt like at the early part of the season, outside of games where they would blow out opponents, right? It was, okay, you look at the Texas State game. Well, the first half was rough, but the coaching staff made adjustments. The players made adjustments in the second half. They figured it out. There have been a couple games this year where the second half hasn't been a problem. The first half's been an issue. You look at games like the BYU game where the first half they just absolutely boat raced BYU, and then the second half was an issue.
Their biggest games that they've won so far this season, Kansas State, BYU, dominating Arizona, Iowa State, that last stretch of games, all of those games were won in the first half.
Iowa State was the best game that this team has put together all season long.
And you know what? That is a perfect point. And I want Texas fans to understand this. Arizona State the entire season, if you go back and you look at just the box score, right, and you say, well, we beat Mississippi State by X amount, you beat them by less. Oh, Texas State on.
It's lame if you do that.
No, yes, but also this. You have to understand where this team came from at the start of the season and where they were building from. And we have continually said, even with them winning, even at the end of the season, this team has still not played their best football. I think Iowa State was the best example. In the biggest moment, at the biggest time, they played their best, most complete football game. And that was not something that you saw at multiple other points, and they still found a way to win. This team is continuing to improve because of the mentality of the players. They have hard workers, and they mesh with the coaching staff so well.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not worried about this extended layoff. Right. If anything, I'm encouraged by it because I feel like if you just give more time for these coaches to get the game plan ready and to get in their players' mind, I do think they're going to come out on January 1st and play their best game of the season. Is it going to be enough to play Texas? Well, it depends on how Texas or to beat Texas. It depends on how they play too, and if you could take advantage of them. But I fully expect ASU to be a better team against Texas than they were against Iowa State because that's where things have been trending so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to, I think if Arizona State puts together if they put together a game the way they played Iowa State, they could beat anybody.
I agree.
That is a game that was suffocating. They were making life miserable for Rocco Becht. They were able to throw the ball. They were able to run the ball. Like the special teams was on. Like everything clicked for Arizona State in that game. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, right? Specifically, you look at those Georgia games that Texas was able to lose. And I know there's going to be people that watch this maybe after the fact or watch it now, and they're like, well, Georgia and Arizona State are nothing alike up front. Well, this is a game, right, where Texas defensively, you can catch them on their heels. Offensively, I think there's a pretty clear key for me to win this game, right? Texas is going to do what Texas does. They love to run the football. Yeah. But if you are able to make life miserable for Quinn Ewers, if you are able to hit Quinn Ewers, if you are able to just make him nervous, right? Or nervous is maybe the wrong word.
Uncomfortable.
If he has to think about, who's coming off the edge. If he has to think,
if he gets hit a couple times,
then I like Arizona State's chances. But you have to do that early and often. And this is a team in Arizona State, which, as good as they've been in run defense, has been as good as they've been at maybe creating turnovers in bunches. This hasn't necessarily been the best defense in the world when it comes to getting pressure, right? So if you're Brian Ward, if you're this defensive coaching staff, where do you give a little here, right? Because this Texas offensive line is the best you've seen all season long. If you haven't been able to get pressure against some of those Big 12 offensive lines or non-con offensive lines in those games, right, then what do you do to create pressure? I don't love the idea of just sticking with your defensive front that you've had all year long and just saying, you know what, these are our guys. We need to go get pressure, because I think Texas wins the LOS at that point. I think Brian Ward and A.J. Cooper and this defensive coaching staff need to find ways to really, really create some chaos, right, which was the selling point for this defense, whether that be real pressure, simulated pressure, sending guys off the edge, whether that be you're sending Shamari Simmons
in the second half.
Yeah. Well, I think at any point you need to be sending pressure. You
can't
need
play in the first half.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Miles Rouser, like if you're sending Keyshaun Elliott, like you need to more often than not send extra guys. I'm interested to see how they react to it. Texas, as of late, has done, like, again, just watching that SEC championship game back, they do something that I haven't seen too often, especially when they're in 11 personnel, right, where they have one back, whether that be Jaden Blue or whoever, and then they have their tight end. But they will, whichever side the tight end is on, they will slide their offensive line, right? Let's say their tight end is lining up on the right side of the formation. They will slide their offensive line when the ball is snapped, right, toward the right side, toward the strong side, which means they will have each of the offensive linemen pretty much go down a guy. They'll leave the opposite, the weak side edge rusher free. And what they'll do is they'll either have the running back pick him up, or they'll pull that tight end, right, and pick it up. More often than not, that'll give that Texas offensive line a little bit of an advantage because they have that step already. And then you've got the backside covered with your extra blocker, whether that be a running back, whether that be a tight end. So I haven't seen them do that realistically every single game. I haven't watched every single Texas game, but it's something I did notice that they did specifically in that second meeting with Georgia, because that first meeting of Georgia was able to just rain down hell on Quinn Ewers from the jump. He wasn't necessarily feeling all types of pressure in that SEC championship game. I think that's part of the reason why it was a little bit closer. I'm interested to see if Texas opts to do that, right, against Arizona State, and Arizona State offensive line that doesn't necessarily bring a ton of pressure just from their original front. Or did they go back to what they've done, early on in the season and just have, a straight up offensive line blocking scheme the way that they've kind of had all season long. But it's something that we'll continue to talk about before that matchup. I do want to get into some key players, some difference makers on the offensive side of the ball for Arizona State and for Texas, but we're going to do that on the other side of this quick break.
Lots of new faces in the chat, you're probably wondering. I know it's the first question that came to your mind. Oh my gosh, Erik, where did you get your hat?
I mean, I think that every day, and I know where it comes from.
Well, it's because it's a branded Bills hat. And this is not just any branded Bills hat. I love our ASU branded Bills hat. I have about 1,000 of them in my closet. My wife says, no more. Stop with the branded Bills hat. We don't have any room for it. I said, no, I need as many as possible. And I definitely needed our PHNX custom Phoenix one that I'm rocking on my head right now. And you, if you run your own business, if you're trying to represent for your salesman, if you're maybe trying to start a business, get your own custom headwear with branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. Truckers, snapbacks, fitted beanies or tees, they have you covered with performance and style. Partnerships with college football playoff teams like Arizona State University, and charity work by partnering with schools like the University of Arizona. And of course, we love local here at PHNX. They are out of Mesa, Arizona. And you can head to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
Do you like the Fiesta?
I love the Fiesta.
Well, then I got something for you. It's called the Fiesta Bowl. Okay, Viva the fans, Viva New Year's Eve, and of course, Viva a new era of college football. The Verbo Fiesta Bowl kicks off December 31st at 5:30 in the afternoon. You got Boise State, powered by one of the nation's leading ground games, taking on Penn State in a feisty Big Ten team in the college football playoff quarterfinal. It is going to be an electric atmosphere. I know there were some Arizona State fans here in the Valley hoping that the Sun Devils would get that bid for their bowl game or for their college football playoff quarterfinal game, but I'll tell you what, this is still going to be one hell of a matchup between Penn State and Boise State. Be there to witness history. Get your tickets now at fiestabowl.org/tickets. Of course, Viva Fiesta. Again, one more time, join them for the first ever college football playoff quarterfinal at the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Buy your tickets, reserve parking, and premium experiences at fiestabowl.org/tickets. And like I said, Viva Fiesta, Erik.
Dude, love the Viva Fiesta.
Yeah, it's what we do.
Great comment. Love to point out great comments from one of our diehards, William. It was all by accident. Says, ASU will have to stunt and twist on the weak side and get through quickly to get to sewers instead of Ewers. I like that. I think that's fun.
It could be fun. It could be fun. Do you want to start on the Arizona State offensive difference makers or the Texas side?
Let's start with Arizona State because we have a lot of Texas fans in here that I don't think are fully aware of how good some of these offensive players are for ASU.
Well, I think, we'll talk about Cam Skattebo and rightfully so, but I want to start with
before we get into that, I want to mention something in the chat. So many Texas fans are like, well, Scat's going to have to go for 150 yards. Scat's going to have 5 yards carry. He does that every game. The last 5 games, he's had 150-plus yards.
He's a dog. He's a dog. If you don't know about Cam Skattebo, I highly encourage you to just go watch some of those games. Don't just check the box score. Go watch the way he does it. You can also check the box score.
I would actually implore you to first check the box score to know what you're talking about. Because if you look at the box score of the past couple games, 177, 150. Look at the Oklahoma State box score, 150 rushing, 170 receiving, or whatever it was.
And these are games, especially in the Iowa State game or the Arizona game, where you see what he did. He didn't even play the fourth quarter of those games. If he would have played the fourth quarter, he would have had 200 all-purpose yards in both games, 250 all-purpose yards. And Erik in the chat saying against Iowa State finished the year ranked. Don't believe Texas beat a team that was ranked in the college football playoff final rankings, or did they? No, Texas A&M. Texas A&M.
Yeah, they beat A&M. Yeah. That's their best win of the season. They beat Michigan when they were ranked 10. Michigan's no longer ranked.
That was week 3.
One of my favorites, Daddy Trill Bedf. Talking about the Texas Tech game. I know you missed
Daddy's
earlier.
Back.
Yeah, Daddy's back. Where's a Splenda Daddy? I want Splenda Daddy back in here. Daddy Trill, if you know Splenda Daddy, please get them in here. But And I'm going to say this just for you alone. Do not just go back and take who ASU was in that game and say that's who they are today. This team has grown tremendously, including their redshirt freshman quarterback, Sam Leavitt, which that was his worst game of the season on the road there, making a ton of mistakes. Like, I get it, right? You lost to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is not a great team. But it's one loss with your starting quarterback, and it was in week 4. In his first true road game, and they've gotten so
we could do this all day. People want to say Texas Tech, whatever, like and who Texas Tech beat, blah 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 blah. Like Texas lost to Georgia twice. Georgia's a great team, but if you want to continue to go back and forth with this argument, like a mid-tier SEC team in Georgia Tech took Georgia to 8 overtimes. Like it's college football. That's the way this entire thing works, right? Like there's so much parity in this sport. It is really tough to be a good team. It is nearly impossible to be a great team in college football. That is why there are only 8 teams left in this tournament, right? Each one of these teams, I believe, is a great team that can really, really surprise people. I think every single one of these teams has a case to potentially be a favorite in the games that they're playing in these quarterfinals.
What's happening to us on Saturday? Oh, no.
I'm about to say, it's going to get ugly for y'all on Saturday. I'm going to have a great day Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday is not game day. So I don't know what you're doing.
Maybe he's talking about some like
individually we're going to have bad days?
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't be fun.
That's not nice.
It's fine. I'd be okay. I'd trade a bad day Saturday for a good day.
Texas disrespect.
Eric,
don't even acknowledge. I'm not even.
We're definitely not disrespecting Texas. But go back to listen to the start of the show too.
Let's talk about Sam Leavitt, right? Sam Leavitt, the redshirt freshman quarterback for Arizona State, has been marvelous this season. A guy who's really, really developed. It feels like each and every week. And I know you mentioned maybe his arm wasn't, perfect. At certain points in the season, I don't even think it was his arm.
It wasn't refined.
It was the chemistry, I think, in my mind, more so than the actual arm in and of itself. And he's been phenomenal to watch. I think if you're a Texas fan, the biggest concern that I would have for your defense is his ability to take off and run. He is one of the more athletic quarterbacks left in the college football playoff. If you go back to that SEC championship game where Carson Beck got hurt, they had to throw in their backup, I believe Stockton. He made Texas pay on a couple of specific plays, specific drives. I think maybe the biggest one you look at is when he took off in overtime, got a first down in the red zone, should have been a targeting call at the end, wasn't, but he was still able to pick up a first down with his legs. Sam Leavitt is going to do that exact same thing. He is not afraid to take off. But in this game, more than any other game, Sam, slide. Because Texas packs a punch, right? One thing I will say and give credit to when it comes to the SEC is this is a team that absolutely flies around. They're around,
really fast.
They headhunt, and they bring the boom. So you need to be able to just know when to give up on a play that not only kind of goes into effect as we're talking about running the football, but there are going to be times where you just need to throw it away. You need to live to fight another down. If you have to take a sack as opposed to trying to make some magic happen, then do so. Sam Leavitt, I think, is going to be the biggest difference maker offensively for me. I know there are going to be Arizona State fans that are like, what? Not Cam Skattebo? I think Cam Skattebo is going to do what Cam Skattebo does. But Sam Leavitt, for me, is a guy that I think when you go back and look at Texas's schedule, right, and we talk about how there wasn't a lot of great teams. Well, there wasn't a lot of great teams with good quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the first team that I think that Texas is seeing in quite some time that has a really good quarterback in Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, Clemson's not better than ASU. And I just want to paint a picture with Leavitt. Connor asked, what have you seen from Sam beginning of the season to now? Let's throw up these stats comparing his first half of the season to the second half. First half, games played, of course, 6, 1,166 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, QBR of 135.8. Second half, 6 games played, 1,278 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception, 176.5 QBR. That is extremely impressive. Like you mentioned, the chemistry growing, and he's become a quarterback that is incredibly smart. He has all the athleticism, all the talent coming into this season. We were talking about his arm strength, his ability to throw downfield. his brain might be his best asset. And I know he doesn't slide a lot, but he finds the perfect moments to run, to avoid, to go around, to take the deep shot. And him and his chemistry with the offensive play caller, Marcus Arroyo, and of course, Kenny Dillingham at ASU as well, has been incredible. Sam Leavitt will be in the Heisman conversation going into next season. And Texas fans should definitely be aware that while Cam Skattebo is the guy for Arizona State, this is the guy for the future. And there's a good chance that Sam Leavitt arrives on the national scene on January 1st. And he is good enough to go out and win you a game.
Also, that's passer rating, not QBR.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's fine. I just want to make sure people knew that he didn't break the scale of the QBR, because I think the highest
of
QBR
a perfect is like
105 or something.
Is it?
For QBR,
yeah.
The QBR is a made-up stat that ESPN made. So
yeah, it is what it is at this point. But
somebody asked if we're doing a live watch-along. We are doing a live watch-along. You will be at the game.
Me and Deli Man will be cooking sandwiches at the game.
I will be at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. We're going to be doing a live watch party for all ASU fans with your first neutral for free. A fiesta. Come at 10 a.m. We're going to be doing a pregame show as well. And then I will be live on this channel for the entire game. From the entire game. Live from Gila River Resorts and Casinos. And then, of course, we'll have a post-game show as well. So we have pregame, watch-along, post-game show. If you want to come celebrate if your Longhorns do well, if you want to come cry and apologize for doubting Cam Skattebo,
I'm sure
whatever happens.
That doesn't seem like a very Texas fan thing to do, but, you know.
No, definitely not. I want all of y'all to promise me, every single Texas fan in here right now, I want you all to look at me right now and out loud say, I promise, say it with me now, I promise to show up to the PHNX Sun Devils post-game show, no matter what. Okay. I want y'all there.
Good. Longhorn pundit saying you clowns rushed the field after beating BYU twice. I mean, at least get it right. We clowns rushed the field twice after beating BYU twice. So just want to make sure you got that squared away. Let's go ahead and get to a couple of the super chats before we get into our next offensive difference maker for Arizona State, starting with John Whitaker. Appreciate the $9.99 super chat. Got to show some love to the Sun Devils crew here. Came over from hockey, learning Sun Devils ball as I wait to see if I'm accepted to go here for journalism in fall of 2025.
Good luck, John.
Appreciate that. Best of luck on that, and we'll see if the Sun Devils pull it off for you.
Yeah. Let us know if you get in.
Cronkite School's goated.
Yeah, this is a triple Cronkite crew right here.
Triple Cronkite crew. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to get off the tongue.
So
there.
Good luck with that.
Triple crown of Cronkite crews.
Yeah. It's David Ortiz with
wow.
a 199
Welcome, David.
Super chat. Texas
Big
defense
Poppy.
greater than anybody ASU has faced, and it is not close.
I agree that Texas is by far and away the best team that all around that ASU has faced this season. And
I don't think we haven't said otherwise at any point.
What they say is Texas, and I'm not saying you're saying this, David, but what the royal they say is Texas disrespect, is saying that we can win this game.
Yes.
Right? That's not disrespectful. You guys are going to be the hardest team that we've had to play all year. You guys are a really good team. I do believe that you can win it all. I'm not going to put my money on it, but I believe it. It's possible. You guys are going to be the toughest test. And if ASU beats you, that's going to be a massive testament to this program. And there's a lot more difference makers that we have still yet to get into. So we're going to take a quick break.
Gosh.
Oh, shut up. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back right after this. All right, you need to relax. Okay. And I have the perfect thing.
No pointing.
I have the perfect thing for you to relax. It is our friends over at Colt Cannabis, which is now available at your local True Leaf dispensary with a huge variety of premium flower. It's Thursday. You know what that means, Anthony Totri. It's deal day for our friends Colt Cannabis at your local neighborhood True Leaf. 2 of these Colt jars for $70, $35 a jar? That's a deal. And as somebody who has tested the product firsthand, let me tell you, that is an incredible deal. We love Colt Cannabis. We love True Leaf. Get over to trueleaf.com, find your local dispensary, and get those Colt jars before they run out, because a deal like this, they are going to run out, and maybe you're looking for a new location. Well, guess what? They're opening up a new location in Maricopa on January 11th. All you have to do, go to trueleaf.com, find your local shop, or place an order, and the best thing for you to do is to look them dead in the eyes and say, PHNX Sun Devils sent me.
You think anyone's going to do that?
I hope.
I hope so, too. Do you know what today is?
Thursday.
No.
Today's the Rate Bowl, baby.
Today is the Rate Bowl. Kansas State set to take on Rutgers, the Scarlet
Legalize
Knights.
Rutgers money line.
I believe the Deli Man is rolling with Rutgers tonight, guys. The ultimate pregame celebration awaits. Make sure you bring the whole family and enjoy downtown Phoenix. Kickoff game day in style with the free Rate Bowl pregame party outside of Chase Field. That's right, Erik. You heard it. Free.
What?
Free.
That's a good word.
FREE. Rate Bowl pregame party just outside Chase Field. Again, the party has already gotten started. 11 a.m.
They are currently partying.
They're currently partying.
Get down there now.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, right now.
Yep.
We're in the middle of
No,
something
no,
now. Afterwards?
Yeah,
Maybe
sorry,
afterwards.
we can't,
I want
Guys,
to party with Big E.
You can still get tickets. Game tickets, premium experiences, and of course, reserved parking are all available. Get yours now at ratebowl.com. All right, you want to get back into...
We've gotten through one.
We've gotten into one difference maker so far. Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo, that guy, he's a dog. Is there anything else that needs to be said about Cam Skattebo? I think of all the fans, or of all the players, Texas fans know the most about Cam Skattebo.
Well,
Okay.
I got a word to describe Cam Skattebo.
Give me one.
Roof.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
true.
no, more. I need a bigger, a badder dog.
I'm going to turn my mic off for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, that's old Yeller.
I mean, that's a good one. Tell you what, we won't talk about Cam Skattebo. Just go watch the Big 12 put out his season-long highlight tape. That speaks for itself.
Be careful. There are some interesting highlights out there.
Viewer discretion advised on those highlights.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You may see a dead body. But
Let's
it
talk
is what
about
it
the
is.
third difference maker for us.
Yeah. Leaf Fautanu, the starting center for Arizona State, first team All Big 12, best center in the conference, bar none. Everybody in the SEC wants to talk about size. They want to talk about depth. They want to talk about the LOS. Well, this is where it starts for Arizona State. It starts with a guy that was here last year for the Sun Devils and Leaf, the best offensive lineman that you got here. And honestly, one of the smaller offensive linemen that you have at that center position, but he's going to be the quarterback of that offensive line. You know, it's only going to really go as he does, right? From the inside all the way out. I think Leaf is going to be massive, not only in protection, but making sure the rest of those guys up front for Arizona State, there are going to be plays, there are going to be downs that Texas win, right? That's just how it's going to go. But you're going to have to be able to truly have that cliche next play mentality. And that's going to start with Leaf being able to get those guys on that same page.
I don't expect, I'm not sitting here expecting domination for ASU, especially in the lines of scrimmage. Yeah, there's going to be moments where Leaf and the entire offensive line gets really tested.
Yeah.
Bad. And they're going to lose, like you mentioned. It's what do you do after that? Because you can't lose every down. You have to fight back. You have to be able to stand your ground. And I have faith in the mentality of our offensive line to stand that test. Texas is going to be great. Texas's defense is the best defense in the country. You don't go up against that and dominate and just win every single snap.
Yeah.
But can you win enough snaps? Can you buy enough time for Sam Leavitt to make something happen? Can you get enough protection for Cam Skattebo to make the right read and to cut through, right? And can you get a couple big plays in there? And can your defense get off the field?
Get them on their heels, man.
Get them on their heels. And it all starts at the line of scrimmage. I do think that Leaf is going to have a great game, but it's not just Leaf. There are a couple other standouts on this offensive line. We don't have time for that right now because I feel like we should get to some Texas difference makers for ASU fans.
Wesley in the chat, though, saying Mateer, Guillory, and Stovall also going to be difference makers. Yeah, I think you're going to need someone at wide receiver or tight end to really make a difference, especially obviously with how good that secondary is for Texas. But for the Longhorns, offensively, of course, everybody wants to talk about their ground game, and rightfully so, right? They do some amazing things. But Quinn Ewers is the head of the snake as it relates to the Longhorns, right? Most quarterbacks are. And I said it earlier in the show, this is a team in Texas that I think is beatable, and I think they are beatable because of Quinn Ewers, right? There are times where he's on fire. If you allow him to sit back there and truly pick apart your secondary, it's going to be a long day because there are weapons at Texas that are at Texas for a reason, right? There are guys that we won't necessarily go into too much detail of as difference makers, but they can be those guys, right? Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, the guy that I'm most scared of for Texas, Celius Bolden. He is one of the fastest players in college football. He's a return man for them, also plays wide receiver, love to do stuff pre-snap. with him in motion. Texas also, the amount of motions that they have pre-snap is wild. Almost seems like every single play. But Bolden, if you remember that dude from Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Stuck his foot in the dirt, like a 5-yard hitch, took it 80 yards.
Yeah.
This guy can do the same thing.
Sure. I think that they have a couple guys who could do that as well.
But this guy is the
fastest.
The fastest.
Yeah. And Texas is an extremely fast team, like overall. And back to Ewers just for a second here. Ewers is the ultimate X factor for this game. If he plays a really good game, I think that's just going to make it almost impossible for ASU to win. But if he turns the ball over a couple times, he's not the most accurate quarterback. He underthrows a lot of receivers as well. If you get that type of game from him, like that really changes a lot. And Arizona State's defense has been really good at getting turnovers. So I think that as talented, as fast as they are, it's really, like you said, it's really the head of the snake. If Ewers plays a locked-in game, it's not over, but it's pretty dang close.
My thing is Ewers doesn't beat teams by himself. Like Ewers is, and this is going to rub people the wrong way, Ewers is a mid-quarterback. Like I genuinely believe he is a mid-quarterback. He's one of those guys that you take him to the NFL on a bad team, he's not going to do diddly squat. Right? He's like a lot of those Ohio State quarterbacks that have a treasure chest of weapons on the perimeter going against sorry Big Ten teams. And then they get to the league. They have got one guy. You're playing NFL defenses, and you just need to make a play. Quinn Ewers, the reason why I believe Quinn Ewers is so successful is because he does have Sark, obviously, an offensive-minded guy at Texas, right? That obviously helps. But the plethora of weapons that Quinn Ewers has is why Quinn Ewers is an NFL draft prospect in my mind. That's why I believe if you are able to make him uncomfortable, if you are able to hit him, Quinn Ewers is not going to beat you by himself. We're not going to leave the Peach Bowl and say that Quinn Ewers threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns all by himself, right? Like he doesn't win games like that. He is not a CJ Stroud. He is not a Bryce Young at the college level. He is not any of those remarkable quarterbacks, right? If he sits back and has all day, that is when this game will get ugly.
Yeah.
That is when Quinn Ewers will beat you, and that's when the Texas fans will be riding Bevo straight into PHNX studios.
Bring it.
I don't know if I want all that smoke, okay? I
Can't
don't
get
want
Bevo in the elevator?
Well, I guess if you couldn't get him in Atlanta, you probably can't get him.
You know how many cranes there are in downtown Phoenix? We can figure that out.
Yeah.
Why are we helping?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Well, Bevo in studio would be sick.
Bevo,
well, I thought we were interviewing him.
Bevo, what are your thoughts on the Peach Bowl?
Was that your Bevo thing going on? But I think moving outside of Ewers, another key difference maker for Texas is a guy that we don't know if he's going to play or not. Isaiah Bond. He's been dealing with an ankle injury really pretty much all season long. But when he does play,
he's insane.
Shane, he's a problem.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite players to watch when he's healthy. He can no matter where you are on the field, no matter what down it is, he can take it to the house. Like it doesn't matter what the play design is, doesn't matter if he's running an orbit route, doesn't matter if he's just running a straight go. He's always a problem, and he's got one of the best celebrations in college football as well.
What do you think, Rubus?
I really hope he doesn't play.
I hope his ankle's okay, but
I hope he long term is fine. I hope his
I hope he just misses his flight.
I hope that you get the most rest for your ankle so that you are prepared for when you go to the NFL, because that is an NFL player.
I think he should just miss his flight.
I think he just needs to do rehab for another 7 days. And then
I'm
after
cool with
that, whatever's on the table.
Yeah. Rehab 7 days.
Don't rush it. Think about yourself.
We're doctors.
Think about your future. They say we need a day job, right? My day job is being a doctor.
Who says we need a day job?
Somebody said... I don't know. Somebody said we need a day job.
Well, I don't know if you could go outside and check, but the sun is shining and it is daytime and this is our job. So, that's what I'll say about that. Hit that like button, though. Hit the subscribe button. And wherever you get your podcasts, drop a 5-star review.
Also, the pronunciation curse is continuing. It's Bevo.
Oh, no. Yeah. I screwed up the bull's name?
Yeah.
Oh,
dang it!
You know what? That might not be good.
It's what I do. It's what I do, to be completely honest with you, if you're new here. The final offensive difference maker that we're going to talk about, not that this is it, but Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue at running back. Obviously, Wisner is quote unquote the guy, the running back. Just in terms of touches, he gets more touches than Blue does. But Blue is somebody that can take it. He can go, yard at any point, right? He's going for a house call any given carry. And this is a guy, him and Wisner, that it's going to take more than one guy to bring him down. This is a game where Xavier Alford, Miles Rouser, Keyshaun Elliott, Cyrus Fiaseu, all these guys, arm tackles aren't going to work. Simply throwing your body at these guys is not going to work. These are Texas running backs for a reason. And like I said, they have the ability to score a touchdown on any given carry.
Like that. And it doesn't matter how far away they are. They could be 99 yards down the field. He gets some open space. He gets moving. He could put it in the end zone. And that's dangerous. How many times do I need to repeat myself that this is a really good team? Jaden Blue, and you saw it against Clemson. Like, he really single-handedly took that game and broke it open for them. And incredibly impressive from him. And if you can, I'm not going to say you're going to limit him overall and he's not going to get a lot of yards, but if you can limit those really massive plays, the 30, 40, 50-plus yarders, then that's a massive win for a running back like him. That's a difficult task. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. But if they can, you mix that in with getting a little bit more pressures on Ewers and maybe getting one or two turnovers. You got to
stop the run. Yeah. Stopping the run is
the number one
thing to do.
Containing the run. I don't think you're going to be able to stop it, but containing it and not letting it just run roughshod all over you, that's your number one key.
Yeah, you absolutely can't afford to have those running backs go wild because then, everything we talked about with Ewers doesn't really play into factor here.
Joe C. says, Arizona State being ranked 30 against the run is a byproduct of the weak schedule they play. The Big 12 is the best running back conference in the country. Yes. Like, the amount of elite running backs in the Big 12 is asinine.
Hey, better than the SEC. Like, the running backs in the Big 12 are better than the SEC. I don't care what you think or what you think you know.
I don't think that's up for debate. Like, I think national people would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. The running backs in this conference are ridiculous.
Insane. And I know that you guys want to disrespect the Big 12, and that's fine. But Big 12's got some running backs, and ASU played, I'm pretty sure, every single one of them.
They played all the dogs. They played R.J. Harvey. That didn't go well. They played Taj Brooks. That didn't really go well. They were able to contain Devin Neal, Ishmael Mahdi, who I know is at Texas State or transferred to Arizona.
He's a good back.
He's a dog as well. People are going to see Texas State, and they're going to say things. But
I don't even think he got over 70 yards in that game, though.
Mahdi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mahdi is going to be a top 3 running back in this conference next year.
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon, yeah. Ollie didn't really do anything. Yeah. Ollie's so big, dude. He's such a big running back.
Ollie Gordon is – this conference is so good at back that Ollie Gordon wasn't even in the top 5 this year.
No. He might have not been in
He was a Heisman candidate.
He might have not been in top 8.
Yeah.
He did not have a good year.
No, but neither did Oklahoma State.
No, I know, but I'm just saying he didn't have a good year.
It's tough to have a great year as a running back if you are not winning games because you're not going to claw your way back into a game by just handing it off.
The oldest offensive line with all returners coming back, and they just stunk.
They did.
Big stinky.
They did. Hey, Ollie's got a year of eligibility left.
Come home.
Come home.
Come to Tempe.
Yeah.
Add another back to the room. We got even more for all of you wonderful
difference
people.
Makers.
Defensive difference makers, and then maybe a quick touch or two on the transfer portal coming up after our final break.
Guys, if you are still looking for tickets to the Peach Bowl, don't look any further than Game Time. Guys, Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, especially if you already live in the Atlanta area or if you're a neighboring state. Check out Game Time. Get your tickets because, my goodness, the deals continue to pop off. The closer you get to Game Time, the cheaper the tickets might be.
It's a pro tip right
over
there.
On their app, guys. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, so much more. You get to see where you'll be sitting before you actually buy them. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Beautiful.
Can I ask you a question that nobody's ever asked before?
You can try.
Do you like the Fiesta?
I like the Fiesta.
Shane, do you like to Fiesta?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, let me introduce or reintroduce you guys to the Verbo Fiesta Bowl Parade, of course, presented by Learner and Row. It's the 53rd annual, and it's a new era in the Valley of the Sun. They're merging tradition and history with innovation and pageantry, and they are celebrating the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, and it is back, and it is better than ever. The event is free, public, and family-friendly. On December 28th, all the colorful floats, balloons, community groups, and marching bands will march through Central Phoenix. Plus, you'll get to see big name and big play Grand Marshal, ASU and Mesa wrestling champion Anthony Robles, subject of the upcoming movie Unstoppables. Just like I'm unstoppable rolling through my flubs on this ad read. Join us in person on Saturday, December 28th on 10 a.m. or watch it all happen live on AZ Family 3 TV for the parade route. And more information, check fiestabowl.org/parade. Can we go back to talking football?
That's what you get, by the way.
For what?
For diving into a break.
I had to.
Yeah, you had to.
Jacob Franklin is off screen with a gun to my head saying, you better go to break right now.
No, he's not.
Right now, he told me.
Did he tell you to say Phoenix too?
Yeah, he told me to
instead
say
of Phoenix. Just want to sit in that for a second.
Just let it marinate.
Just want to let it, yeah.
Stop.
Take a deep breath.
Stop. We're moved on.
Isn't that the quarterback for the Falcons? Michael Phoenix?
Nope. Good try, though. Good try. Look, let's go ahead. Let's get to some defensive difference makers. And I'll let you decide. You want to start Arizona State? You want to start Texas? You want to start with Texas?
Guys, we got to start with the Texas defense.
Okay, let's start with that Texas defense. Somebody brought it up earlier. Anthony Hill Jr. First off, phenomenal name. By the way, big fan of the first name. Absolute dog. He's going to be an NFL linebacker, 99 total tackles on the year, second on the team with 7.5 sacks, 1 INT, 4 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. This guy is all over that Texas defense. 6'3", 235. The scariest thing about him is he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
This kid is the real deal. And he is realistically a big part as to why this Texas defense functions the way it does. And this is a guy that you are going to have to be aware of every single snap. If you are Marcus Arroyo, if you are this offensive, coaching staff, every week when you're game planning, you pick out the best couple defensive players, their best linebacker or whatever. This is the guy. This is the guy on that Texas defense that you are circling, and you're like, okay, we're running away from this guy. We're running plays away from him. And like I said, you just need to be aware of where he's at all times.
He is incredibly smart.
Yeah.
He reads the field so well, especially in plays behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of players on Texas are really good at sniffing out what's going on behind the line of scrimmage. He might be the best. Very, I don't say scared, but aware of what he's able to do.
And the answer to that question is a lot. He is able to do a lot. He can run in coverage. He can sit in the box. He's a pain to try and move if you're an offensive lineman. He just so happens to be that guy at the end of the day. Another linebacker that I do want to talk about, Colin Simmons, who that name might sound familiar to Arizona State fans. The Sun Devils were heavily recruiting him. He was a 5-star kid out of Duncanville. 24/7 has him as a projected first-round pick whenever he does opt to go to the NFL. And the reason we bring him up is because he is a true freshman, and he's been able to do marvelous things already in his first season at Texas.
Didn't we have him on the show?
I don't think so. I don't think we did. I think another Duncanville kid we probably did. He leads Texas with 8 sacks. He's got 3 forced fumbles, an INT, 6'3", 245, again, as a true freshman at linebacker. This is another kid that you are going to need to know where he's at all times. You can't allow yourself to get in those 3rd and longs, 3rd and 8 plus, because this is a kid that will absolutely just rain down on you if you are in obvious passing downs. And
obviously it's up to the offensive line to give Sam Leavitt and Cam Skattebo some time, but also for them, they need to be comfortable making a very fast split decision, because that's how fast this guy can get to you.
Yeah.
Right. And especially Sam Leavitt rolling out of the pocket with the amount of talent and speed that's on Texas's defense, especially in their secondary as well, who can kind of hang out as spies. You are going to have to make decisions like that. There's no room for error against this Texas team. They're smart, they're fast, and he is maybe the best example of that.
Absolutely. Again, as a true freshman, absolutely remarkable to see.
That's Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year award, by the way.
Can I? Dog. He's a dog. And whenever you decide to hit the portal, I'm sure Kenny and company would love
Come
to
home.
have you back. Yeah. The last real defensive difference maker that I want to talk about. Listen here, Phoenix. Okay. I walked myself there.
We are not making that a nickname. We are not. I'm putting my
I didn't
foot
even
down.
think about it until you said it.
I'm
going
to put my foot down.
Putting my foot down on that one.
Phoenix Ruby?
I've been called dog legs. Okay.
Old dog legs.
I'm not going with. We're not doing Phoenix.
No.
Put this on the record. PHNX Sun Devils is not doing Phoenix. On the record.
Jedi Barron, defensive back for Texas. He is a senior, 5'11", 200 pounds. Not necessarily the biggest DB that you're ever going to see, but he's a ball hawk. 11 pass deflections this year, 5 INTs. It just feels like he's got a nose for the football, especially when you need a guy defensively to make a play for you. Barron appears to be that guy in the secondary for Texas.
Stop me if you heard this one before. He's fast.
Yeah.
He's quick. Right. And again, when you don't have your number one receiving threat in Jordan Tyson, that's going to open him up to kind of play freely out there. And that is a scary, scary thing for Sam Leavitt. And it's on Marcus Arroyo and him to try to scheme around that. But players like him, they're going to make big plays. He's going to get a PBU.
Absolutely.
You just can't let them get turnovers. Like, you can have them make big plays. They're going to swap balls away.
You can't let them be game wreckers.
No, but they're going to be difference makers. But yeah, game wreckers is where you kind of have to stop that line. It's almost in every position with Texas, right? Like, oh, they're defensive line. Okay, they're going to be difference makers, but you can't let them completely get you off schedule and wreck the game.
Absolutely.
Same thing with their secondary. Same thing with their run game. Like, again, very complimentary towards Texas.
Yeah.
Like, there are very few weaknesses in this team, but they're not perfect. They're not impenetrable.
No.
It's not an unstoppable force or an immovable object, right?
No,
Like, they're just a really good football team that can be beat if ASU plays their best in certain ways.
Absolutely. And for Arizona State, they've got difference makers on the defensive side of the ball as well, right? At every position, too. And I want to start with a guy that is one of the only, if not the only, Sun Devil on the roster that has played in the college football playoff before. And that is Justin Watley along the defensive line. I could have gone with, a CJ Fight or a Jacob Kongaika or a Zach Swanson, right? But Justin Watley being such a veteran defensive lineman, he has been a real force at moments this season. And when you're talking about trying to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, when you're trying to be honest in maybe not over pursuing in the ground game too much, it is going to start on that defensive line for Arizona State. And I think Watley is definitely in for a big game. If he is able to be a difference maker like we've seen at certain points this season, then I think Arizona State could certainly have a really nice day defensively.
Oh yeah, if he is one of your best players, not out of other people, playing below their strengths, but because he elevates his game, then you are sitting real pretty because of some of the other defensive difference makers that are going to be around him. If he plays up to his ceiling, that opens up a lot for some of the other guys we're going to talk about and even some that we're not.
100%. Moving on to another guy that I think, all these guys are difference makers. If I had to point to one that I think is going to be the most important for Arizona State defensively, it's Clayton Smith.
Why?
Clayton Smith off the edge. I mean, again, you want to get to Quinn Ewers. You need to make him move. Clayton Smith is one of the faster edge rushers that Arizona State has. If you remember last season, and I know Shane remembers this too, right, is they were trying to, maybe not upset is the right word, but they were trying to get the most out of Clayton Smith. And they would call him finesse, right? Because he was a guy that came into Arizona State a little bit slimmer, and it felt like he was just a finesse move guy, right? A finesse edge rusher who was going to beat you off the edge with his speed, or he's going to maybe pull a move out of his pocket. And he has really tried to stray away from that this season, being able to build to his size, his strength. You saw it in the offseason, coming back a little bit bigger this year. And I think he is certainly going to be a big, big factor in this game. I want to get your 2 thoughts on it here in a second, but it's just a reminder, if you're watching us on television, the party and the fun always continues at gophnx.com.
There have been certain points this season where you've wanted more out of Clayton Smith, And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for him to fully deliver. I mean, he has not had a bad season at all. But I do think that going into this, I thought that he would be a bigger difference maker, a bigger key cog. And him and Prince Dorba kind of fall into that category for me. But you're right. Body-wise, mentality-wise, like he is the type of person who would be able to get around this Texas offensive line. And we keep on going back to Quinn Ewers. You hit the guy once. Hard,
he's soft, dude.
Hard, and that's why a player like Clayton's so important, because you use that speed. You get to Ewers once, you get to him once, changes the entire dynamic of the game.
Yeah,
right. That could be a sack on Ewers from Clayton Smith could be the biggest play of the season for Arizona State, and he's certainly capable of doing that, even if he hasn't been as consistent with it this season as we would maybe have expected him to be.
Yeah. Did you have something, Deli Man? No, had nothing.
He's restraining himself.
He's restraining himself. Yeah, as he does. Xavier Alford,
Woo.
The last one that I want to talk about defensively for Arizona State. 100-yard landlord, former Texas kid, first team all Big 12.
Best nickname of all time.
Dog in the secondary. He's a heat-seeking missile on the back end of this Arizona State defense. In coverage, in the ground game, he does it all. He's the vocal leader for this team in the locker room. And you bet your bottom dollar that if Arizona State is going to find a way to upset Texas in this game, Xavier Alford is going to have a giant hand in it.
If anybody's been waiting for this moment, it's him.
Yeah.
And if anybody believed that they would get to this moment, it's him.
Yeah.
Right? When you say leader of the team, not an understatement. He is one of I think there's like 3 or 4 players that truly embody the heart and soul of what this team is and who they are. He is clearly one of those dudes. And those dudes win you games like today.
He's an NFL safety is what's going to happen. He is going to be an NFL safety one day. And as of right now, like we said, on the back end of this defense, he is what makes it go. He lays the wood, dude. It's what
Shout out to Phoenix.
Does. And you totally just threw me off. I'm done. I'm over
it. Got a $5 super chat from Res Devil saying horns down. Shout out Res Devil for recreating Xavier Elliott's touchdown celebration. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Love that. That was a little Christmas thing.
Fantastic.
Love that. Absolutely.
Big Res Devil fans over here.
Biggest of the Res Devil fans.
First super chat.
He's also a diehard.
Oh, of course. I mean, the diehardiest of all diehards. He was rocking some new merch.
The diehardiest?
From us, he's a pretty diehard fan. Like, if anybody even earned the title of diehard before they became a diehard with us over here at PHNX, it's Rez. Thank you for your first super chat.
Rez Devil was one of our first guests on the PHNX Sun Devils show.
I wasn't even here.
I know. It was like literally like 2 weeks in.
That was a decent guest.
A decent guest.
A
Gestenbach.
A Gestenbach? Which one do you prefer?
Diefenguest or Gestenbach?
Just shaking his head.
He misses us so much.
Just disapproval all the way around. It is what it is. Guys, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Yes, Rubus.
Can I this isn't football, but Trevor Best.
Yeah.
Might play basketball this season. It was like Word of God Academy commits where Jaden Quaintons played high school basketball. He is cleared to play, cleared to enroll in classes January 2025. Very explosive point guard. And, playing time is never promised, but for an ASU basketball team that needs some more guard depth, I wouldn't be shocked if that guy plays. We can unpack that more once we maybe get past the Peach Bowl and maybe whatever comes next.
I would say once the national championship's over.
Yeah, once the Natty is home in Tempe.
Then we can.
But I want to give a quick shout out to him because you might be seeing him playing basketball for Arizona State this season, a very unique situation. So I just want to give a shout out to him. Welcome to Tempe. Go Devs. Okay. That's it. Just wanted to bring it up.
Shane, you got anything else before we get out of here? No. Shane
is so sick of us.
He's a Christmas boy. That's what Shane is. He's a big Christmas boy. Guys, we really do appreciate everybody here. It is all fun, right, between Arizona State and Texas fans. Like Erik said, if you're not going to make it out to the game and you are in the Valley, make sure you head over to Gila River Resorts Casinos, hang out for that watch party.
First neutral is on us.
It's gonna be a hell of a time. If you're going to the game, reach out, say what's up. Would love to chat with any Arizona State or Texas fans out there. And then of course we will be live on Friday. So make sure you're back in the chat. Again, 1:30. We're going to have some sound from some Arizona State defensive players, defensive coordinator Brian Ward as well. I'll be over at the stadium. Mr. Rubis will be here holding things down. So definitely stay locked in on that. And if you enjoyed the content, make sure you follow us on social at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow Phoenix over here at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K. And you can follow the Deli Man back there, just cooking up fire as always at Shane Deef.
Horns down as always.
Of course, guys. We appreciate you. We love you. Happy holidays. And as
so
always,
heartfelt.
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true.
Go
Devils.
Genuine guy.
And peace.
We all silly like the mayor.